It should be interesting to see how the first round goes. So, and he's not even here, he went to California. First day out, he goes to California. So. All right, anyway, thank you, everybody. Tina is not with us tonight. She is actually under the weather, has been in the hospital, so I'm going to take thoughts and drop her an email if you think about it, so let her know that we're thinking of her. Tom is going to take the minutes, and Tina did send out the minutes to Tom, who emailed them out. Everyone had a chance to look at them. If not, I'll ask Tom to take a look at them. Anybody have any corrections? Sure.
Yeah, the correction was the date of November 2014, that was in the one I corrected before I printed it, it's 2024.
Had the wrong date?
Yeah,
10 years.
the PDF had the wrong date.
Hey, we're close to the right decade. All right, with corrections, can we, any other corrections?
Good call. Good spot.
Okay, sounds good. Memorialized, all right, with corrections, do I have a motion to accept the minutes? So moved. Second, Trish, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, take really good notes tonight. All right, Joe, if you want to give us the treasurer's report, then we can hold on back to blocking interest.
All right, so beginning of the fiscal year, July 1st, we had $3,465.06. So far, we've collected $100 in membership dues, interest 2 cents, no expenses so far, but those will back up a little bit as we head through the year. And then as of the end of December, we had $3,565.08. So we have 6 more months left in the fiscal year. So see how that goes.
All right. Any questions, comments, or discussion on the finances? Seeing none, motion to accept as presented. So moved by Trish, seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Yeah, we got the website and the PO box are basically the big expenses that we have, the hosting and the website. And then the PO box, which just keeps going up every year because the postal service has decided those little tiny metal boxes are worth an extra $25 every year just because. That's really our big stuff, and then donations to the donations to the 4th of July. All right, we have our presentation tonight. If you haven't figured it out, it's the Golden Arches. And Mr. Redunda is here as a land use attorney to represent his clients, and from, I think, an engineer too, and they have some concepts to show us. If you kind of remember where this is, heading down Limestone Road towards Paper Mill.
Is this where the old school was?
Correct, yes. Owned by the state of Delaware, and they sold it because they don't really need the land. They've got a bunch right next to it. It was the 301, Janet, was the extension?
Yes.
The road bed still lays there. If you look on the parcel view, you'll see that it still shows state of Delaware, and DelDOT has the right of way through the woods going all the way down to Road Beacom. So who knows what's going to happen with that at some point, but Mr. Redunda's brought a plan for a McDonald's restaurant with drive-through, and I guess the good news is, on this, is there's already a signal there with full access, so it doesn't require, I don't believe, any traffic studies unless it's keyed by the rezoning, but I'll let Bill go ahead and Bill Redunda.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, President Blake. I want to thank you and Councilperson Fitzpatrick.
4 more years.
Thank you for allowing us to come to your meeting tonight. Happy to see such a big crowd here tonight in light of the weather we're facing. My name is Bill Redunda. I'm the land use attorney here. I'm here tonight on behalf of McDonald's. We have Alex Ortiz, who's from McDonald's, who's represented from McDonald's Corporation. And then also to my right is Steve Fortunato. He's the civil engineer from Boulder Engineering. I was going to give you some just general overview concepts. The site has been already identified. It's right at the intersection of Limestone Road and Paper Mill Road. So when Paper Mill Road connects into Limestone Road, it's directly across the street. Quite an interesting situation. S is like the least, one of the least dense zoning categories.
I was gonna say, Dick Saunders, come in.
Come on in, Dick.
Want to come on in? Come on in. Okay, I think he's here for a different meeting.
Okay.
So it's S zoning, which is interesting, because that's like 1 acre lot, single family home, zoning, which is sort of interesting because there's nothing like that in this immediate area. If you're familiar with the area, there's the Wells Fargo Bank on one side, there's a daycare behind it, there's a Liberty gas station next to that. So essentially, it's in an area that calls out for something other than a one single family home on this 1.25 acre lot. One thing that's really interesting about Pike Creek is that while this is zone S, the vast majority of all the lands behind this property are zoned what they call NCPUD. Because limestone, the Pike Creek area and that Limestone Road area was designed as basically a large planned community that was designated to have mixed uses between residential of all densities, commercial and office. So essentially, you can see our site here, all of this land on this side and all of this area is all NCPUD, Planned Unit Development. And essentially, we believe that this McDonald's at this location fits in. You can see Maple Mill Road connects. There is a stub at this location here that would be the entrance into the McDonald's coming from the intersection. Because being familiar with the area, I'm sure you're aware of that Limestone Road heading south towards Kirkwood Highway. There's actually a left-hand turn lane there. Now, there's nowhere to go left turn except to take a U-turn there. So you could take a U-turn there, but literally, I was thinking what that concept was ultimately there's no funding for a connector road between Limestone Road and Stony Batter Road, but that's, something that's at least open land from those two roads. Yes.
Wasn't that usurped by DelDOT without permission from the landowner, and they put a road in there, and then they had to remove it?
I don't believe they ever put a road in it. If you look on parcel 2, you'll see they have the contiguous path all the way through. It goes behind
Yeah, but
Limestone
I
Hills.
think
There was a back road into Vincent Lane or something like that.
Right, and the people from Vincent Lane sued because they hadn't approved it.
Right,
Okay.
that years ago. I mean, the 301 connector was back in the 90s. So, it was supposed to come from Newark, basically hook up with 52 or something. And that it obviously never went through, and as the years went on, all along the way, pieces of land got sold, so it's something that's.
But it did get paved,
But it did.
and there was a
Yes.
lawsuit over it.
Yes, she's right.
So just again, to familiarize yourself, I know everyone's familiar with where Maple Mill Road connects to Limestone Road. It's a daycare behind here, Wells Fargo, gas station, it's office over here, or senior care at this building. So that's what we're looking at. This is our very first meeting. There's been no plan submitted to the county. Having done land use for 20-some years and worked for the county, the first place to stop is the civic organization that is most involved with that particular area. So this is our very first stop. As I indicated, it would require rezoning from S to commercial neighborhood to do this. In Newcastle County, the rezoning process is 18 months to 2 years, maybe longer, to get through all the hoops you have to go through, including planning board, county council for the rezoning, which happens about halfway through the process, and county council approval later, which follows a whole series of plans the civil engineers would work on. So this is definitely something that's out there, probably in the 2-year range, but this is our very first meeting. So our goal tonight was to come here, introduce the concept of a McDonald's restaurant at this location, take back any comments that people have regarding this to the McDonald's Corporation representatives involved with the development of this project, and then move forward from there. So I'd like to introduce Steve Fortunato now to step up, and he can walk through with you this plan for this location.
Thanks a lot, Bill. Good evening, everyone. As Bill said, my name is Steve Fortunato. I'm with Fuller Engineering. Civil engineer, representing McDonald's on this project. And, like Bill said, we just wanted to come as a step, first step with you guys. We haven't even, I don't think, had a conversation with the county yet. We have had one or two conversations early on with DelDOT, as you guys can imagine. They have a key role in this configuration in this location for a number of reasons. And hopefully this is gonna be a whole lot more straightforward than the previous plans they had involving that road that didn't end up happening. So what we're proposing here is a pretty standard McDonald's setup. We are proposing access-wise, one right in off of Limestone Road, as well as one full access that's essentially in this road location. However, as far as this project's plan is concerned, or any future outlook DelDOT has in any way, that's all it's going to be. So this is not part of some DelDOT project. There's no plan to connect. That's not even in their pipeline. They have no funding. They have no design. They have nothing. So they basically said, hey, obviously it makes sense to have access to this location. It was built for it. The light's in. There's left turn lanes. So we're utilizing that. We're essentially building it to DelDOT standards in terms of a thicker pavement than we would typically do on a McDonald's entrance. And they're having us stub this out just for future. But as far as we're concerned, and even as far as DelDOT's concerned, that's all that's going to come of it in terms of a public road standpoint. So just wanted to make sure everyone's aware of, this isn't part of some larger project, or we're not using this DelDOT road as part of it. It's really just going to be a McDonald's entrance for now. Internal site circulation is one way, typical McDonald's fashion. This is the dual ordering point, side by side. It comes into one service lane here with a few windows. That's all the new McDonald's standard. A very efficient process. It's definitely geared towards this building size is heavy on the kitchen area. So I think a lot of people assume that when you see something this size and this layout is like, oh, what's parking? Well, in this case, we're proposing 32 parking spaces. It is less than what's required by code. However, the focus of these, what's maxed out McDonald's is there's never parking. It's always drive-through. So this is a very efficient program. They're implementing this and trying to retrofit any of the existing McDonald's to something more like this. And of course, all the new ones are being built to this standard and really to just maximize the cars that can come in and out of the site efficiently. As part of this, like I said, the right in is crucial here to prevent traffic from having to go to a signalized intersection. Even though you can make it right on red, even DelDOT agrees the least amount of traffic to send to a signal the better. We're proposing right in for easy access into a one-way circulation. Then all the egress traffic leaving would come to the signalized intersection and be handled that way. We've got dumpsters in the back. It's pretty typical. We've got a number of their mobile spaces, the online ordering spaces, handicap spaces, compliant with code. And this right here is just practical in terms of landscaping. This is, like we said, a very early concept. So we typically, we're somewhat familiar with what Newcastle County requires. But this isn't by any means the final design. Have to go through the full review process of the county. So with that, that's kind of just high level. We don't anticipate anything particularly unusual here. Like Bill said, this particular zoning we have is unusual given the area. So we will have that rezoning process, and just wanted to make sure we start reaching out to people before that whole process starts.
Would you run that through again? You're gonna have the in lane from the northbound Limestone Road around the building and out at the intersection.
Correct.
All right, so people who are headed southbound on Limestone Road can't use this McDonald's.
No,
Well, if they're turning left into the exit, how does that work out?
Access. So this is
in and an out.
Yep, this is both directions. So anyone traveling straight, they can make a straight maneuver just across from Paper Mill Road across Limestone headed north. And then just the same, anyone that wants to come headed southbound on Limestone will wait at this light and they'll make a left turn.
Okay, so you're your exit is a two-lane,
Correct.
two-way. All right, well, what do they do when they get into the one-way from the other direction?
This might help a little bit. So here you can see, you got the yellow line in the middle, traffic can head in.
Okay, but get back to the back end. What's going on back there?
Back here, this is also technically full access because I guess.
Okay, well, how do they get into the drive-through lanes?
Make a right, flip around.
Yep, they just pull right into it, come right into the drive-through.
Yeah, from
And how do the people from the other side get into the drive-through lanes?
Oh, yep, so they'll travel, so, you know, they would make, assume a left in here, drive down this, make a right, and then they would just circulate and come in, and then come out.
Okay,
Just like they do at the one up by, Stanton.
I have never eaten at McDonald's, so I have no idea.
They have good coffee, you should go to one, they have great coffee. But this is very similar to what they did when they revamped the location up by, Chick-fil-A's next door now, I don't know what the name, the Stanton location. Cause they redid the whole interior and everything and that, and it all basically comes in, and then you go around to these two lanes to order. They have two lanes on the end of the building down here for them. This is Kirkwood Highway, they come in, and you can go out the other way, but they have two lanes doing the same thing, and it stacks up, and they have like two pickup windows where it gets busy, but their parking lot, if you go up there even during peak hours, it only has maybe 6 or 7 cars parked in it. No more playgrounds, not a lot of tables inside, because 90% of the people, I don't know what the number is, but
It's like 75.
it's-
Yeah, it's a lot.
That's a great point. That was just made 85%.
75 on average. Just
Yeah,
across
I mean,
the-
mostly drive-through business at McDonald's.
And then another portion of that is digital, where folks are actually ordering online or ordering through Uber Eats.
a service picking up for them.
So more car movement in and out.
And this is the reason, and I don't know if you were around, but they had a McDonald's in where Lantana is, where Five Guys was. They were there for years, probably since they opened, but one of the things they wanted to do was get a drive-through. But they were looking to push it out onto Limestone Road, and that just didn't fit with what was available. So, you know, it's been, what, 30 years? Yeah, how long?
Hopefully not that long ago. But yes, a McDonald's interior in a shopping center obviously is not.
And they did well, and they needed the drive-through, because most of the stuff is shifting to drive-through.
Okay. Have you got enough driveways so that it doesn't spill out onto Limestone Road like on Concord Pike where it would stop traffic in the morning?
So I don't know if there'll ever be another Concord Pike, situation. Certainly not if you've got, you know, engineers in the McDonald's team working on a new project. I don't even think McDonald's would entertain that if I drew something that ended up with that scenario. However, in this situation, yes, one of the first things we look at with McDonald's is what's the stacking, what's the queuing, and that has to pass. McDonald's won't even let it get anywhere remotely to talking to anyone if it doesn't pass their internal process, and how many cars they're gonna have stacked.
And this site has breathing room, unlike the Concord Pike site. This is 1.35 acres. That Concord Pike site might be half an acre.
Yeah,
I mean, it's literally,
I mean,
kind of squeezing.
that building is about right here, you know, as you can imagine, you just.
It didn't used to be. They increased the size of 202.
Yeah.
It didn't used to be. I used to sit there after church and have lunch there, and you could sit outside and it wasn't bad. Now you can't, obviously they took the tables and everything away there, but it didn't start out that way. It was much
And it
more
won't be
room.
that way again because they sold the Ducard.
It's
office
gone. Have you
building
been
is
by
gone, so
there? It's
that
all-
whole area now is gonna
It's
be
all
used.
demolished.
Yeah.
It's flattened out, but yeah, it wasn't like it started out that way. When Concord Pike just kept getting more and more lanes, it engrossed on that property, and then they had no choice but to drive-throughs.
And a lot of population.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Are there any regulations controlling cooking fumes from a restaurant like this?
I'm sure, so as part of the health and safety aspect, so that's not directly related to like land use here, they've gotta have vents on all that, and I'm not aware of the, specifics,
I mean, to the outdoors, not internal.
Yeah, no, correct, the venting, meaning what gets vented outside, yeah, they got regulations on that, I know McDonald's has all kinds of filter systems put in place.
They'll have venting through the roof and then filtration systems that are changed regularly by the operations team. Even the oil and grease is changed out on a regular basis to prevent kind of that burning oil smell, which we don't have, as we may have had in the past, but now, operational standards have changed, food standards have changed, and just a lot of that is starting to play into just our standard design. So this here is our brand new, I think 4584 building, is that correct? The three windows. Yeah, so ultimately, this is the latest and greatest from McDonald's. We're putting forward our best foot forward.
Question mark, listen. Question mark, there you go. Do you have a franchise person purchasing that property, or is it a company-owned store?
This one will be assigned to a franchisee. We haven't assigned one yet, because we're very early in the process. We've got to go through the entitlement process here, it could be a couple of years.
So McDonald's will build it and then lease it to a franchisee?
Correct, we'll typically get very close to the end, where we're ready to bid out to our GCs, and at that point, we'll start to look to assign the operator. And typically, it'll be an operator from this area. You mentioned the Duke carts, that's one possibility. We also have in Delaware a really great operator, Mike Mioli, who's he manages. He's got
Sussex.
Yeah, he's got
Like
27
Sussex.
restaurants. The guy's
Yeah.
amazing. Has a great staff. So the big thing here is that McDonald's is actually moving more to not onesie twosie operators where you've got one or two stores. Those folks end up struggling. You go to the guys who have 15, 16, 17 restaurants. They actually have a whole organization. Hundreds of people working for them. And they're better able to manage just all the standards and keep things, clean and nice. So.
Do you have any elevation drawings you can show us, Bill and Steve?
So this is the typical, what's proposed on this prototype, the typical elevation. They have a couple of different, variations, but this is one that we're showing here. So you've got, there's steel, what do they call it?
They call it steel.
Yeah, right, yeah, steel, yeah, yep, so this is the steel look, so it's, steel color with some black and brown accents. And again, this is, prototypical, so as a starting point, this is what we're going with.
And one of the questions we're gonna ask, because lighting, we're all about not having, as we slowly change out older businesses and things, is the lighting and the signage. Do you have anything that shows up what the signage would look like on the property?
So we don't have any
Really?
signage on this yet, I'm looking at some pictures here. So here's a few pictures of what store looks like, from previous stores. So we don't have any, we don't have anything proposed on signage yet. I believe a pylon sign is available, or is permitted as a use of what we're going for, the CN zone. So that's, and it's gotta be set back, a fair amount. We've got one shown on the site plan, but it's gotta be set back a fair amount from the roadway. So it's not gonna be something that's, pushed up, 5 or 10 feet off the pavement. It's gonna be set back.
You doing any EBMS?
Potentially the electronic, potentially.
Right, one of the things we've always asked, anybody that brings in a business or a sign, is that they're tied in, if they're gonna do an EBMS for support, that it's tied into the 911 emergency system, so they can display emergency messages, silver alerts, gold alerts, things like that, which it's basically just an interconnection. So that's something, if you're gonna go for an EBMS in CoCast, and we'd like to see it be serving the public beyond two big bags for live today, that's reasonable. And I'm gonna bring it up to everything I say, but we're not big on pylons. We're trying to get the old pylons removed and go to monument signs. They're just less obtrusive and we tend to be up high in the air, kind of, I'll be blunt here. So we're trying to go with monuments that are made with similar materials to the building, so it looks more like it fits in the area. And we've got a lot of legacy businesses in the area that, as they're going through redevelopment, we're starting to ask for more monument signs and getting that. It's just, it can still be, if you look at Wispas over on Limestone, it's a big monument because it also has the attached mini strip. But it still gives you the signage that you're looking for. It just has a better look to it aesthetically.
Hold up, we'll take that back to McDonald's. We'll take that back.
And I know they've done it, I always think of, I go to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, you go there and look at the McDonald's, it's there, it's a whole other animal. I'm looking at these, and the one on the left with the uplight, that doesn't even meet the LEED standard that the county has now with the splash light, so that wouldn't even be considered.
Yeah, with like these.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have to have caps on.
Yeah, they have to be, they have to cut off so they can't go past the roof edge. And that just, to me, it looks like it's just splashing the wall for the sake of lighting up the building, whereas the one on the right, you know, that looks.
More downlight, more downlight, yeah.
Right, these ones here will go down, but we'll definitely, I guess,
Yeah, the one-
Steve mentioned, where is it?
Yeah, you're still early on and everything, just kind of
I'm sure
going
you
through that thing. So they've gone with the lighting. I know Jeff, what was that, like 8 years ago? They put in the no more just up splashing where you're splashing the night sky.
Just the last year or so, they have, lighting caps on them, so it's not an uplight.
And I would ask you to look at, out in Corner Catch, the CVS store that went in, we worked with them on that project. And that's another one where they did their prototype store with the corner entrance they always have on the four corners. They have the one main entrance. But we did, instead of backlit signs, it was lit solid letters. So the letters were there and the lighting was behind it, so you still saw the logo. And it looks really nice at night, because the idea was there's a neighborhood right nearby, and it doesn't make it so that it's you know, a bright backlit sign. It just looks nice, because it's got solid black letters, and everything just lines, it looks like it's kind of got a glow to it, just lighting up their logo, or in your case, the arches, and it could be colored backlit. So those are just, it's just that was sort of the jump ahead we did. I think we did that with, was that Larry? It was Larry Terabicos.
Yeah.
What was that location?
Right at Corner Catch.
Oh, Corner Catch, okay.
Yeah.
No,
And,
it's Darnell.
Paper Mill and, Paper Mill and Corner Catch, right there on the corner of the CVS, right across from the county park. Yeah, but that's got a lot of that lighting type of things we looked at, and, strange, the county made them do the, stone walls in the parking lot.
Those are strange stone walls.
Yeah, that's the weirdest thing, it wasn't anything anybody wanted, but the county goes, you can put some stone walls in the parking lot,
So
we did.
it was meant to keep the lights from cars that are parked there from going into the people across 72, into Meadowdale. But it's wall,
Yeah.
open space with a
Wall,
tree,
yeah.
wall, open space with a tree. So if you happen to park in the open space with the tree,
You just shine
your
the
lights go
around.
straight through to the houses across the road.
Here's the irony, because this was a big issue after it was done, the interior lights, the way that the lighting was done in that store, everybody that lived in that neighborhood, was it Silverwood you're saying, Janet? Everyone that lived on
Yeah.
there across the road complained that at night the lighting lit up their houses, so their drapes, they had to put room darkening blinds in. So we had to go back to the county, and they didn't even look at the interior lighting, thinking that they were shining out. But the angle, the way the fixtures were made, the concave LED fixtures, they literally reflected straight across, they're like beams. So we ended up having to get them to change it, to have the shades come down halfway or 3/4 at night. So light
Except the
doesn't-
shades broke and they don't ever get them
Yeah,
fixed.
and if they don't fix them, then, but it was, so they ended up putting a fence, they had to pay for a fence across the way for quite a few people.
But
It
yet,
was just- it
at
was
this,
crazy.
at this location as opposed to there, there is no neighborhood
Right.
directly across from it.
Yeah.
So, and it is a strip of commercial.
Yeah.
You know, you've got, I can't imagine what you would put there if it wasn't commercial. You know, I mean, like you said, there's no way somebody's gonna say, oh, let me just put a house
Yeah,
Yeah.
and all this stuff.
in the middle of nowhere.
Nothing permitted in the use that it currently is.
No,
right?
not under the
So,
zoning.
yeah.
Mark,
Yes, Trish.
on
Uh,
reverse, the way Paper Mill Road comes in there, they may have to consider what the headlights are gonna be going right into the McDonald's.
They'll leak faster. Those people, those tables at night leak faster.
Well, it would go from road to
Yeah,
driveway.
it wouldn't hit the restaurant, because
You
it's straight
sure?
across. If you look, go back to the overview, it's directly across the road.
I mean, certainly
You
somebody
mean
may-
when they're making the right-hand turn, they aren't gonna sweep across the front of the restaurant?
Keep your eye on it if you wanna do it, but yeah, it's,
Or when they're making the left-hand turn, I guess, they're okay, but they,
Yeah, so you're all set a little bit to where these cars are kind of shining this way as opposed to, you know, into the store.
I guess the bottom line is, at some point, and, we had this discussion already, when we did the, comp plan, and we were trying to pick up orphan parcels that were not zoned properly to the rest of that area, this is probably one of those parcels that should have been picked up. Because it's completely out of sync with the rest of that intersection area. And you know that across the street from there, we're gonna end up with something commercial.
Yeah, there's like a accounting firm that's in there, CTEP or some STEP or someone like that that's in there now. So that'll come up.
Yeah, I mean, this is S between commercial properties. And there's nothing that's gonna go in behind it. So,
When the county did that, way back long ago, I think Gordon 1.0, and they went through and rezoned a lot of things, didn't they pick S for anything that they didn't know what it should be, whether it should be
S is
residential?
anything that has to do with low zoning. So houses, because if you go up to more density, you're up to ST. So S was, parks are S, you know, that it's just the lowest category in zoning, where before we went to the UDC back in the late 90s, we had like 13 housing categories, suburban S, but they weren't called that at that point. But we had like 13, and they consolidated it basically into 2. So it's a real wonky, there's no real good definition. You know, when it was, what was the letters that they used before?
NC 05, NC
Yeah.
12, 11.
Right, so you had like 13 of
Neighborhood
those, so you knew
conservation and
if this was gonna be
lot
single
sizes.
family homes, small, you knew it was this, if it was gonna be medium size, if you knew it was townhouses, you knew it was twins, you know, each one basically had their own category. But this zoning on 1.5 acre parcel is not conducive to the rest of the area. So whether it's McDonald's or whether it's somebody else, at some point, somebody is going to put something in there that is not a house. It's not big enough for an apartment, it's only 1.5 acres. So,
That's right, and, I mean, it really does look and feel like it should be a commercial use of some sort, for sure.
and the only reason that is such a funny intersection is because of the whole 301 thing, which was then sort of chopped up as it came up through the county. And I think that this is one that just probably was housing at one point and just got lost in the transfer of everything else. Or somebody just didn't pick it up from the 250 or 480 that were done previously, and it's just wrong
And
on
they still
parcel
find you,
code.
right? Even after, I know your bill that you put through, your ordinance you put through, it had tons of them all over the county.
Oh, yeah,
People were still crying, oh my gosh, they shouldn't do
I
that.
thought it was a
That's exactly the
daycare
right
place
thing
at
to do.
one
Right.
point,
You
wasn't
take
it?
these orphan
It was an
parcels
old
that you
historic
just
schoolhouse.
it's like they're
Yeah,
useless
but
the way
wasn't
you
it
have
a
it right
daycare
now.
for a while?
I think that's behind
yeah,
that
And
that's-
building.
we've always talked, we don't want this in the
There's
middle
still
of
a daycare
downtown
behind it.
Oakesson right now without.
I thought it
Yeah,
was a
something.
daycare
right,
for a
but that's
while.
Well, I'm
pretty
not
far
sure.
Yeah,
removed.
this is on the edge of Data.
Well, I thought you've lived here forever, you might know.
Only 15 years.
Oh, I've been here
Technically, where the
25,
old
so
Data
I've
boundary
been,
stops, and Pike Creek Civic picks up, which is, they've been like that for 10 years.
Right.
So,
Yes,
You're gonna need a water retention basin, something like that?
Yeah, we'll have stormwater probably in this area here, and potentially in front a little bit. Yes, we'll have stormwater.
Yeah, between Denrick and the county, stormwater
Yeah.
is always mandated for quality and quantity.
no doubt, it's a very thorough review in the state and county for stormwater, so that'll definitely be part of it.
I know it's way early, but will there be any discussion about the architecture of the building, or is there no discussion? It is what it is with McDonald's. There's the gas station that's right there, doesn't look like a typical gas station. I'm wondering what if you're looking for support from the civic association, civic organization here, will there be discussion about that, or we say this is our option, this is what we're putting here?
So McDonald's has, their standard prototypes, so they try to keep to for, recognition. However, we're here for public comment, and I'm sure that will come up as part of the review process that goes through with the county.
I mean, we certainly have seen other McDonald's that blend into the other buildings that are there, and I'm wondering if that's gonna be an option or not.
Yeah, I mean, yes, if there's particular comments, that gets tricky to, because, these 10 people say they want it this way, well, then the 10 people say that's worse, so.
We have big matches with that.
Yeah, but, I mean.
But if you're here looking for our support,
Correct.
it would be ours where we support this or we don't support that. That's the purpose of our organization, saying, okay, we would like to see it like this.
Mhm.
And you take it from there, so it's,
Yeah, so your input, yep, that's what we're here for.
we'd like to see it look something less like a old style red and white.
But even the old
Checkers.
ones are changing, because
Yeah.
this is a
Yeah.
person who goes to
Yeah,
McDonald's
man, you don't
every
like
Thursday with
rectangular blocks.
grandchildren. And I can see, as you're coming in, like last week, this was not black, this was red. Now, this week, you've got, the kind of the block
Right, red and
colors,
yellow
but
ones.
Yeah.
even the old, one
Yeah.
down on Kirkwood Highway, it's changing.
You do see them in different places that really model the architecture that's already there.
Right,
It's not always, their standard one, and it
Right.
kind of depends on where they're putting it.
And that's,
Right.
yeah, I mean, they've fully gotten away from the bright red, yellow,
Right.
on the architecture, so, and yeah, the minute details of, lights and those things, that all gets worked out, and that's gotta be code compliant, from an architectural standpoint, but, this is the prototype, this is the new prototype they have, and they are retrofitting, you're right, others to, come more in line with this program here.
Yeah, for example, on this one, our new standard building has a hardy plank board, kind of dresses it up a little bit, gives it that kind of, farmhouse style of finish. So we can fool around with colors, we can do a lot of different things, to accommodate.
The column on the right bottom, the bottom left one, is that like a faux wood
Yes, sir.
column?
Yeah, yep.
Probably can't see that from back. I saw like slats. I said, oh, it looks like. a
Yeah,
wood.
it's wood and steel, it's kind of, not really stone so much anymore, right? Maybe CMU, this looks like CMU maybe.
And really, some of them, it just depends on the jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Some of these are actually on the west coast, the one top right.
Mhm.
In this area, we tend to start with the hardy plank as our base, and then we can go a couple of different directions, like maybe an ephes material, or in some cases black. I don't think black looks as good as black to me looks like a factory, And so we're already rectangular, which I know people don't really love, but that's really laid out because of just the kitchen. That's just how, we gotta lay it out that way in terms of that rectangle. But what the faux wood and the awnings is trying to break out that, give it some dimensionality, some depth. But yes, it is something that is somewhat flexible. We can work with some ideas. Yeah, we can do that.
just make it so it won't burn when the forest burns down.
Yeah.
Very sensitive to fire these days.
Yeah.
All right. And traffic studies. I mean, I'm guessing you have to, based on the use, at least go through an advisory or a TIA.
Yeah, we'll go through a traffic study with DELDOT for this based on, the use and the added traffic that's projected. It's at an intersection, so it's not determining whether a light's needed, it's just determining on how to modify that light based off the movement.
Yeah, because as I recall, I think I was talking about Bill about, there's already a turn signal there. I make that left turn or U-turn all the time, and I think from Paper Mill, it has a straight and a left, and the right is just going. So just a matter of timing, I guess, adjusting the timing for what the traffic is.
Yep.
All the lanes are there. And you said you're going to be building that spur road to a DELDOT standard that's higher and thicker.
Yep.
So if they ever do decide to do something, another 50 years from now,
Yeah.
none of us will be here, but around, none of us will be here. That makes sense from that standpoint. Any other questions, comments? Have them come back as they come back with some other thoughts on maybe shows the landscape plan or the lighting? I mean, what other type of lighting would you have on the site other than the building itself? The parking lots will all be, I'm guessing, LED down lighting.
Yeah, it's all directional LED, so it's bright, but it's coming straight down. Directional meaning it's not that still.
Hours of operation. How many times is that? Come on, guys. Is it 24 or is this a?
Yeah, typically we like to start with that as our, entry point and kind of adjust according to the operator. Again, I'm not the operator, I'm just the construction representative. So when the operator comes in, they'll be the ones that look at, customer patterns in the area, the traffic, and then make an adjustment as needed.
And the 24-hour usually only applies to the drive-through. I think it's standard, they all close,
The lobbies.
yeah.
Okay. Anything else anyone can think of or want? If not, can you come back with us?
Absolutely, sure. We'll
Thoughts?
keep you posted, we'll definitely keep you posted, so you can let the group know what's happening, and Councilman Patrick as well, will keep you both in the loop as to the people.
And do we want to do a quick straw poll just to get a temperature of the room? How many people are, I would start with negative, how many are adamantly opposed to this?
I have one more question. Where are the AC units gonna be? On the ground or on a roof?
There are rooftop units.
They're behind the
Each of
parapets.
has a rooftop with a raised parapet, yes, exactly. So the roof appears to be flat, but there's actually a 4-foot space up there.
Okay, it's a facade.
Correct.
So we did with Walgreens, Happy Harry's / Walgreens at Limestone Valley. They're behind the fake tilted colonial roof. Okay, go back to my question. Those that are adamantly opposed, raise your hand. Those that don't have any problems with it or like it, raise your hand. Raise a finger. That was a good finger.
Think chocolate milkshake.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's what, you have to make sure the shake machine works. If it's a running joke, you need one.
That's the number one thing we get all.
Well, when we had the interior one at Lantan Square, it wasn't big enough to have a milkshake machine.
Yeah, it's tough, some of the folks just, because of either space limitations and sometimes money, but most of the time space limitations goes, yeah, they go
Since I've never eaten at McDonald's,
Thanks, guys,
I have
for coming
no
out on this
idea
call,
what they're
everybody.
talking about.
Stay away.
Thank you, everyone.
They're on a bed.
All right, James, you're up with the legislative report and update.
Oh, Dan's gonna give mine today.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna be quick. Any questions about reassessment?
What's the millage rate?
People are going crazy. I have done counts for so many people to show them that this is really not out of line from where they are. Just understand that the tax rate will go down. I think I said this a couple of months ago, when we look at Kent County, who is now complete, their tax rate went from 36 cents per hundred of assessed value to 5.7 cents per $100 of assessed value. So don't think, oh, I pay X number of dollars now, and it's gonna go up as many percentages, hundreds of percentages, as your reassessment went up. If anybody is appealing it, it should be middle of March, beginning of someplace, first 2 weeks of March, we will open the formal appeals with the Board of Adjustment. And you can make an appointment, it is no cost. We had an argument about that. They wanted to charge $20 or $25 for people to come in. I went, no. We told them we escrowed the money and that there would be no extra charge. So there is, as of today, there is no extra charge. But you do have to make an appointment, you do have to go in. If you go in to appeal, what they want are sold comps. How similar in size, similar in bedrooms, similar in bathrooms, that sold within the last 18 months. They don't want you to come in and say, well, my neighbor's reassessment is this, and the other neighbor's reassessment is that, and his house is 40 square feet bigger than mine or smaller than mine. You have to have the selling price of a house. Most of us have neighborhoods that are large enough that we can get the selling price. If not, you know that you've got a huge Hockessin area that you just look for the square footage, look for the number of beds, number of baths. Those are the most, and size of lot. Those are the most important things. So I'm basically tired of people saying, but my neighbor has this. Well, let's run the comps and see what you've actually sold for in there. The other thing, obviously, always the fire company. We have the facet study that we've done, or that we've contracted for, and that has come in. We're waiting pretty much for Kent and Sussex to get theirs in, and then there will be some discussion, hopefully some good discussion with the fire companies to see what will have to be done for funding for fire companies. You know, fire companies were always, in this area, were always volunteer. They are not volunteer anymore. Their bills are going up just like everybody else's. And we have to make sure that they are stable. That doesn't mean that 21 fire companies that exist now will remain as 21 fire companies. There's probably gonna have to be some merging. As one of the guys said to me the other day, I was coming up from the south, I came down Kirkwood Highway, I went past University of Delaware, which has an ambulance, I went past Etna, I went past Mill Creek, went past Cranston Heights, and I was less than a mile from home and I still hadn't gotten to Ellesmere yet. So that's some, Belvedere is in the Pike, or the Price's Corner area too. So we're gonna have to look at most likely look at redesigning some districts. But we do understand, I think we all understand that we do need viable fire companies. We rely on them heavily. The other thing is we're looking at impact fees, and that's basically on new houses, but we are still building houses within this area. Our impact fees haven't been changed since 1999. They had a 7-6 vote right before Christmas that they were going to just add an impact fee and up the range of percentage of what they would have to go up every year. That passed with 7 votes. The county executive vetoed it, and it did not have a veto override. The department and through the administration is working on impact fees, and what we're hoping is that we can step them, so if you've got a lower priced house, that the impact fee would be conducive to the buyer for that house. If you have an $800, $900 million house, a couple thousand, tens of thousands of dollars, $25,000 is probably not gonna make a huge impact on you being able to buy it. But if you've got a lower range house, for every $1,000 that we add on to the bottom line of those houses, we kick 300 people out of being able to get a mortgage on that house. So we wanna make it fair. We are always looking at more affordable housing. It's the fashion to, $500,000 and up. When I went down Lancaster Pike a couple of weeks ago and went past Delaware National, the old Hercules Country Club, and saw the sign on the placard on the bottom of the sign where it usually says starting price, low 400s, mid 500s. This went low 1 millions. So you know that we've got to somehow look at something that's more affordable. We just passed another available plan that developers can use for housing. It's called cottage homes, and it's similar to just a cul-de-sac. So it's kind of for infill, so similar to a cul-de-sac, but the homes face each other. So you come in the back of the houses, but your open space, your backyards are really just front yards. So the purpose of that is that people get to know each other, that they go outside, or if we go outside and we go in our backyards, you may not see anybody, but if you go in your front yards, if you sit on the front porch, you're always gonna see somebody. So we're trying to get back a little bit as much as we can to something that's affordable and nice and conducive to relationships. And if you have any questions, we haven't met for a month. Well, we met last week, but we haven't met basically for a month, so there's nothing that's really new. Yes?
Yeah, relative to this reassessment being revenue neutral, is that forever?
No.
Or is that just for 1 year?
It's basically for 1 year. So the governments have to stay revenue neutral for 1 year, like the year that the reassessment starts. We can't collect more money post-reassessment than we did pre-reassessment. But the whole lawsuit was about equity, that some of us were paying too much, some were paying too little, and were supposed to be brought up to fair market value. And even, so for the state, for the schools, by state law, they can raise their state school tax up 10% in the first year of a reassessment. And each district has the ability to do that. For the county, the state code says, if we were going to raise taxes in that first year, we had to go through a full council vote. We didn't have the innate ability just to add a tax on. We escrowed $24 million over the last several years because we knew this was coming. That $24 million pays for our assessment, and we have to pay the monitors, the whatever we're calling them, the people that are coming in to do the board of adjustment, to do any adjustment, any appeals. That covers the cost that we have to pay them, because we have a certain dollar amount that we have to pay them per hour.
So the next fiscal year, following the first year, there's a potential for it to go up.
Your tax bill coming in this July, which would have to be paid by September, might go up, might go down, might stay the same, but only because of your reassessment, not because we added anything onto it. But by the next year or the year after, if we cannot manage a budget, we have the ability to raise taxes.
Okay.
When will the new millage rates be published?
When will they be? Probably not until April, May. We have to pretty much get through appeals. They were saying in the beginning, I think, that overall in the county, we went up like 570%.
511.
But, okay, right. And we are, by the time that was printed, by the time the letter was printed to everybody, and it got mailed out and people got it, we were already down to 375. So we know that with every appeal that goes in, it's gonna change. So it's not gonna be till closer to when the bills are getting printed that, we normally vote on tax rates in April or so. So I would guess that would be the earliest and may have to push it out. But I don't think it's gonna be as horrible as what everybody is thinking that it is. Hope I'm right.
Impact fees, you mentioned. Is this something for the future?
It would be, yes, it's only on new houses, only on new houses. And there are some impact fees that are mandatory that we have to have because the state says. Those are the big ones. The ones we put on through the county, like for parks and libraries, things like that, are minimal compared to the voluntary school assessment that the state puts on, which is not voluntary because you have to pay it, and Del Dot. Those two alone can come up near $20,000 per house. Yep, Mike.
Has the reassessment revealed any surprises in terms of some sections of really getting a bargain in the past?
The ones that I've seen in the Hockessin area, we seem to have been paying a little more, and I've seen that could level off. We could go down a little bit, and it might be because of the years that a lot of our houses were built. In Kent County, they found that the biggest upcharge was with the lowest value homes, which was upsetting because that's adding a burden onto people that probably can't afford to have theirs go up very much. But I can tell you, I mean, people are calling me and believing that they're gonna have to sell their house because they're on a fixed income and crying, and I just can't tell you how horrible this has been for people. I'm not sleeping, I'm depressed, I have to go to the doctor, and I have a hard time believing that this is gonna be that bad. And if it was, I would think that the county would have the ability to say, wait a minute, we'll do this in 2 phases. You know, you can't imagine the things that we have heard since this came up. But I know because it's something that's so, 1999, when did 1970, 80, 83 or something like that, was the last time that we did this. So I think it's seeing that your house was valued at here and now it's valued here. But if you go through and you look what your neighbor's house sold for, that's where it is. Fortunate for those selling, horrible for those buying. Anything else?
Rolling reassessment looks pretty good now, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's gotta be every 5 years from now on. The state
All right.
determined that and we have to go along with that.
All right, thank you, Jan. All right, real quick on the land use report. We have some commercial buildings we talked about last time, Wells Fargo Bank Building. It has, we're still being under contract, but nothing new from that, so we're not sure. That's 2.7 million for the 6,000 square foot building and a little over 3.5 acres. CR zoning. The Hartnett Law Building right across the street at 7301 Lancaster Pike, listed for sale at 1.08.5 million, 5,480 square foot. It is no longer under contract. That deal fell through. Walgreens at 2012 Brackenville, that's the one down at the bottom of the two hills. That's $5.78 million. They're basically doing, they have a long-term lease where they have to hold it till 2029. And this is part of the real estate deal where Walgreens and other CVS, all these big chains, they sell the real estate, lease it back, frees up capital for expansion and other things. So that one there, annual rent, $462,000, and it goes up 12.5% at 3 and 5 year renewals. So nobody knows, I haven't seen anyone that said they bought it yet. A new one, Coffee Run Condo. 614 Loveville, the proposed new building. They are selling the property for $1.4 million for a half-acre lot to construct a 5-story maximum building with 45 luxury condos. It must look similar to the original buildings. So this is the unbuilt Coffee Run condo tower.
Right, and let me tell you that they purposely, when they developed that site, because they thought if the last parcel was not developed, that someplace down the line they wouldn't be able to develop that. So they developed B, C, D, E, and A is the one that's for sale. So they know that it falls under the same restrictions that all the rest of them do.
So that is up for sale right now for the building, and then they would have to build, whoever buys it has to build that building. They can outfit the interior any way they want, the configurations, but for all intents and purposes has to look very similar to those that are already there. NBF master plan in Yorkville, nothing new there. The Quarry Walk has, I believe, issued the building permits because they're getting their sewer connection. Valley Road in Baltimore, the Del widening, nothing else happening there. 701 Valley Road, this is owned by Mr. Setting, Joe Setting, the brick ranch with a 3-car garage. Not much is going on there. He still says he's gonna build the original office, our medical building. Haven't seen anything. You haven't seen anything come through.
Yeah.
520 Valley Road, kitty corner from Walgreens, that's the by right parcel where they were going to build the, first it was going to be 5 houses, that was going to be a daycare, and pretty much it still has to be something that fits the zoning, or they'd have to go for rezoning. Nothing new on that. 6042, 6060 Limestone, major redevelopment without rezoning, residential apartments. This is George Best, and Beers, sorry. Has he moved forward the next plan? So it's still going through, everything's fine.
It's still going through as far as I know, yeah.
So we already went through all that back in March to talk about the landscaping, the lighting and everything else. And then we met again in April and May to go through more details. So at this point, we're just waiting for them to probably get good enough weather to break ground. Across the way, former Exxon gas station in Richardson's. We think, knock wood, this is the last year that Richardson's will actually be opening. So we think this was the last year for them. That was filed way back in October of 19, and you'll see that the gas station, they've pretty much gotten all the piping in for the monitoring wells, which is what they put in. The next page, and they'll have full access off the Yorkwood Road and right in, right out for the Starbucks that's going to form a gas station. EPA and DENREC, they're all set. The perk is being monitored. And as far as we know, they are on track to break ground this spring. Valley Grove, former Cameron Mushroom House and property, they're at the turnover point. They released the they passed the open space, and they only have to finish the final inspection for the roadways and underground utility pipes, the drains, and catch basins through DelDOT. They'll probably wait to do that in the spring when it's a little easier to do. But they, as far as I know, the county has released the last 6 building lots. As of last week, they had everything they needed to petition them for that, so they can then either build those out, and they may just build them on spec just to close it out. Even though there may not be a buyer right now for them, they probably will end up selling like the others have done pretty quickly. Harmony at Hockessin Senior Living. The building is in and lit.
The interior needs to be done.
So they're basically just at final build out on that. Hockessin Station, former Magrellis, and other properties along the east side of Valley Road. The word is that they're going to begin all of that at the same time, depending on how the sales go. So the single family section, along with the others, will be taking into consideration for the townhomes, the twins, and so forth. And they're down to, same as we told before, 143 homes, because they basically took 4 houses out of the single family and had some bigger lots in there. Lantana Square, nothing new there. Proposed cell towers, the 2 that were proposed for the Powell Center and the Trinity Church, those have passed and they're just waiting for construction permits. Haven't heard, and I didn't get a chance to check historic review to see if they did the one next to our office out in Northland on the Garrett House.
Yeah,
I don't think the historic review committee's met yet. They'll probably meet the first quarter of this year, and that would be the 3rd one. We do have a new project on Paper Mill Road down the hill from where we were just looking. It's on, if you're heading, excuse me. If you're heading down the hill, it'll be on the left-hand side, and it's rezoning from S Suburban to ST. And they're looking at townhomes. There's 32 age-restricted townhomes. There's a small little farmhouse with a garage, 2-car garage on the left. That will be retained, and it's historic. Because it's historic, they'll be able to get a density bonus, which is why they can go to 32 instead of, I think, 28 was the number. So it's not a whole lot bigger. That driveway, though, will be closed off, and it will be accessed from the interior of the project. And so instead of having 2 accesses off the paper mill, it will be further down the hill. I've got a copy of the plan. So if you were to look at it, Paper Mill Road, the house is right here, and these are the infill of those, and all this is open space. So the plan has been filed. It's a small infill. And the only thing is they do have to go for rezoning from S to ST, which isn't much of a rezoning. I talked to one of the developers a little while ago about this, and the idea was that the land is in between other projects. There's not a lot. Other people were looking at it from a commercial CN or C, but it's not very big for a C. It would have to be a CN. So in this case, it probably wouldn't have been a good one for that, even though they would have gotten more money, but it was in between 2 parcels that were zoned residential. And if they put this in as a commercial neighborhood, it might sort of dominoes start falling down the road. So this is just behind the parcel that probably, they pointed out, might go someday, where the STEP accounting company is in there. It's behind that one down the hill. So by doing that, it prevents that from expanding and picking up those 2 lots and making a larger C or CN. Yes, Pete?
Do you have a cross street for that paper mill and
There's no cross street because it's literally on paper mill.
nearest major intersection?
Limestone.
Okay.
Paper mill.
Okay. Thank you.
Go to the limestone paper mill intersection, make the right if you're coming out of Hockessin, and it's the first house on the left.
Okay.
A gentleman used to live there, used to walk all the time, and he had like all sorts of collections there.
Yeah.
I know you've probably seen this, but there's a lot of concrete block and building scraps on the parcel itself. There's several invasive trees, and there's some heritage trees in there. That I looked through, they had like a 5 or 6 page landscaping and arborist plan that showed they were going to take out the invasives, clean up all the block and other stuff that's just accumulated over the decades because the house is really old. That was all farmland. They had aerial photographs going back to the 40s for this parcel. And they will take and save the heritage trees, take out the invasives, get rid of all the invasive vines. If
you wanna look it up, just look it up by the number on parcel view, which was 1510, I think I said.
Correct.
Yep, 1510. Let's see, Paper Mill Road, and that's all I've got. Any questions? A little hoarse tonight. No, I wasn't yelling for the Eagles, I'm a Blue Ridge fan, that's right, true, but they did well, they did well. Okay, Mr. Seeley, you wanna tell us what's going on in the cold weather to help us
Sure.
Historic Society?
I'll be quick.
Lean?
We just have 2 major updates. We're a little delayed getting our forms over to our accountant for the 990 forms, and we were informed that the IRS is shut down for 2 weeks anyway. So I'm about 2 months behind on that. So we'll get that taken care of. The great news is that our Excel spreadsheet's lined up to the nearest penny, to the exact penny. So we don't have to worry about paying our accountant extra money to find out where the missing penny is this year. That was about $200 extra for him to just look through our financials for a missing penny. So, but it could have been $1 million off and $999,000.
Your officer was always let us know.
So that should be taken care of, and it's really nice because this is one of the second or third years that we have the Excel spreadsheets for the financials, so that we can very easily look at our income and expenses by category, which we haven't done in the past. So people ask if I was making or losing money on certain things, and I have no idea what was going on in the past because it wasn't recorded accurately. So that'll be really nice to be able to see and discuss with our board members. We also applied for a grant, an ARPA grant, and thanks to Janet Kilpatrick for that. That was $34,000, and that funding is going to fixing Tweed's Tavern, which is always going to need repairs. They moved the building. It was in need of about a third of the log structure being redone anyway, initially. It still has insect damage. They're going to be treating for that. And then the chinking that they call it, the plaster work in between the beams always pops out. So that's a continual thing that needs to be repaired. And then the whitewashing is done in a traditional manner, which needs to be reapplied all the time. So there's no end in sight. So there's the constant necessary repairs for that building. The other building, our historic museum, is a brand new building, so that's not in need of anything at this point, which is great. And right now we're dealing with just extremely expensive snow plowing bills, which we can't get away from. We have a contract, and we just don't want a lawsuit. We don't want anybody injured, especially along the main intersection right in Hookheston, where there's just heavy pedestrian traffic. So we hope to have the Tweeds repairs all done by June. So it should be fairly quick, and $34,000 should go pretty fast. So that's not an awful lot of money, but it's nice to have. It's a good chunk that we needed, and it's a major repair that we needed done on the back of that building. So it'll keep future repairs hopefully down to a minimum, and keep the moisture out of the building. And we got our oil tank replaced at Lambourne, which is great. But everything else you can look over. We have a few events that we hope to plan for the near future. The Sula historic marker keeps getting pushed off. They keep telling me that it's not ready yet, but it had to have been made. So I think they're just planning other events. There's only one marker coordinator, so we're going to try that, to get that arranged and taken care of. That'll require Delta, I believe, for a little bit of traffic control along Limestone Road, because the event will take place right on Limestone. Even though it backs up to the Tweeds complex, parking is going to be a nightmare, and nobody's going to want to park, half a mile away to walk over to the event. The other one that we'd like to plan is with the National Park Service for the Network to Freedom program, and we have 2 locations that are listed on that program, and that would be a great way to also get a little publicity with the Park Service and our local elected officials also. So we hope to schedule that for some time when the weather gets nicer. And then Darlene, I think, would like to make an announcement. She's asking for some help, a little volunteer help. I'll give you the floor and let you talk about that. But if you have any questions for us, feel free to contact us. I have membership forms. I have my business card. You can contact me anytime through emails or a phone call. Any questions? Sure thing.
We've got the June 8th event coming up, this year, June 18th. And this is the first year that I'm really gonna ask for anyone who is willing to come and volunteer. It doesn't have to be a woman, it could be a man, it could be teenagers. If you're interested, please come and see me. Sometimes I have a card in my pocket. I'm not like Pete, who always carries cards. But I might have a card in my pocket that I can give you with my telephone number on it. Also, we're doing a little bit of research on John Tweed. John Tweed was the owner of the Tweed's Tavern, and he picked that tavern up in 1802. Now, many people will say that John Tweed, it was a little bit unusual. Yeah, he had a lot of sheriff sales, and it was quite obvious that he didn't know how to control his money. But still the same, Tweed's Tavern is still there, and I'm very happy that it is. So if you would like to work with us, there's a couple people working with me at the moment, and we're doing just research, plain research, seeing what we can find about John Tweed. Also, his relative is working. That's how I became interested in the tavern. He has a relative. She lives at the Kendall, and she's very nice. She's very excited about learning more information about Tweed's Tavern and John Tweed. Thank you.
Thank you, Darlene. Do you guys have a design or a concept for the museum sign you're talking about in the newsletter?
No, we don't, but people keep asking what the building is. And when they build it, they put a big sign up that says Hockessin right above the door. So it doesn't say what it is. But right under the hack sign, right at the entrance to the park, there's a little bit of a space there where it looks like there was supposed to be a sign mounted.
Yeah, that was the old electronic message sign that went defunct.
So
Got put
We
in.
need a sign, because Joe used to talk about that too. We need a sign.
And that would be great. That would get it right onto Valley Road instead of the back Fitness Way where, people don't see it until they already turn into the park.
Yeah, I was just thinking if you had like an idea of what, if it's gonna be like the Hockessin Historic Society Museum or whatever, what would you want on the sign?
Right. We'd love to promote the museum.
Figure out what it
Sure.
would cost and then figure out how to fund it.
Gotcha.
So, noodle on that one and come back and maybe we can come up with something.
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Hutchins, Hockessin Business Association.
Our
Tomorrow night?
meeting is tomorrow night at the Hockessin United Methodist Church, one of our newer members. They're hosting it, and we will have Scott Phillips from Scott Knows Solar, who will be our new member, who also is a new member, will be presenting to the group. We also have had a change in our board of directors. We now have a new president. I will be on the board of directors, but no longer president. The new president is Janet Mitchell from Woodside, and our vice president is Johnny Scobell, who is the owner of Parks and Rec. The board remains the same. We just had, again, my term ended and I've been succeeded by John.
All right. And again, what time? 6:30 social, 7 o'clock?
6:30 will be social. The folks from the church will do a little guided tour. Those who are interested, and the business meeting starts at 7.
Okay, I want to point out that there have been some people that have been supporting Habits that have been seen. They're wearing little green uniforms and they're selling these little sweet treats in boxes. I've been clean for a year, but Girl Scout cookies are coming on sale. Have you seen them?
They've been to my house, yep.
The dealers are out. They have to cave in, I guess, but I'm sure the troops will be down in front of Lantana selling cookies again. Whoever those parents are that set those kids up, they do really well, and you don't escape without buying a box or 2 or 20. But so if you've been clean for a year, it's time to get off the wagon and buy some Girl Scout cookies. Anything else for good of the order, new or old business? Yes, certainly.
President Blake, are you gonna pardon anybody tonight?
I'm gonna pardon Dan because he probably needs it most. Things equal, yeah, I don't know, I don't think so, I don't think I've got any pardonability.
You could just do an overall pardon in case anybody does anything bad.
That's a good idea, I like that, and retroactive.
Makes it retroactive for a few years.
When I was
Yeah.
14, because I existed before social media and cell phones, it was real Kodak film, so by now the negatives would probably deteriorate when they won't produce it.
Oh, no,
Print.
negatives last a long time.
What's
But
that?
you gotta find
Negatives last a long
Do
time.
they? Not here in fire.
box.
All right, thank you, everybody. We'll be back here next month. February 17th, Saturday.
Day.
I have photos and negatives that are well over 100 years old. They last much longer than the digital.